Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to April. 3 weeks from today, we will have the start of one of the deepest running back classes in NFL history begin their career in the 2025 NFL Draft live from gorgeous Green Bay, Wisconsin. Don't believe what anybody else is telling you out there. Green Bay is a fantastic place, a real place to have the NFL Draft, and I plan on being there all 3 days. This is the FFPC High Stakes Fantasy Football Show on the Better Sports Network. You are looking at the mugs of myself, Eric Balkman from the FFPC, the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, the RotoViz High Stakes Slowdown on X at Eric Balkman, and as well as Matt Donnelly at Matt Donnelly FF from Fantasy Points and RotoBaller. Once again, joining me, Matt. Last year when we did this show, it was one of the more fun shows I did in 2024 for sure, and I'm very looking forward to this show tonight. No pressure, but you were super entertaining last year. All the viewers are expecting again this time around. Happy Thursday to you. Welcome aboard.
Glad to be here. There is some good-looking facial hair being represented on this show, don't you think? Like, this must be the best facial hair 101, 102 in all of fantasy right now. And yeah, you know what? I don't even know what's going to come out of my mouth half the time. Last year, I may have said something about Jalen McMillan. This year, who knows what kind of road I'm going to go down. I know we got 2 hours. I mean, in 2 hours, I can say a lot of stupid things. So I'm ready to go. I'm excited. Kids are upstairs running around, doing supper thing. I mean, we're out here in the West Coast here in Canada, so there's all kinds of little footsteps, pitter-patter that you're going to hear above. So if you hear weird sounds, it's probably coming on my side somewhere.
I did the RotoViz High Stakes Slowdown earlier this week on Tuesday with Jay Utronki, who was also in Canada. So it's like Canada week for the FFPC shows this week, now that we get you on here too. I want to revisit the Jalen McMillan discussion about the bold prediction you made on that, which I don't think was necessarily a miss, although I think most people would categorize it as that. But I want to revisit that. And I want to talk about everything going on around the league, including a trade that went down today, a massive extension that went down today. We'll get to that in the first segment. Second segment, Matt, you do this thing every month for RotoBaller, where you talk about how the Dynasty rankings get adjusted by the RotoBaller staff. And I want to kind of get your personal feel on whether the RotoBaller staff is too high or too low on a lot of these players, both rookies and veterans. That will be the meat in the show sandwich tonight. And then the other piece of bread will be the NFL draft. We will talk about Amari and Hampton, Tet McMillan, Emeka Egbuka, and much more tonight. So that is going to be the show. I want to remind everybody who is tuning in tonight, there is exactly 3 weeks left to play in the FFPC Never Too Early Best Ball and Never Too Early Best Ball Superflex tournaments. $40,000 and $10,000 grand prize at stake. Remember, you can enter for $125 or $35. Those tournaments are going to run up until the start of the NFL draft. They'll conclude on April 24th. 30-second, 60-second, 2-hour, and 6-hour clocks over at myffpc.com if you want to join that. There is no tomorrow, as Apollo Creed would say. Once April 24th hits, those tournaments are done, regardless of how many entries we get, regardless of how many people are in it. That is it. So make sure you're taking advantage of that. Now, myffpc.com is also your home for the FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament, a $1 million grand prize, $350 entry fee, 3 teams for $1,000. That means you're getting a $50 discount on every third team. Drafts have been off and running for the last month plus. Early Rampage promotion, 7 Bananas promotion, available now too at myffpc.com. And we just posted, I think it was last Tuesday, we did our final Dynasty Orphan Drop of the season, where we listed the final 300 orphan teams for the FFPC Dynasty Leagues for 2025. A bunch of those have already been scooped up. There are still some left. Check them out. Entry fees normally range between $77 and $5,000. However, some of those teams have been dropped for as little as $1. You can basically pick up these teams for free for 2025 and manage them to championship heaven. 1,800 plus leagues over the last decade and a half. None have ever folded at the FFPC, myffpc.com. Shout out to our producer, the man behind the glass tonight, pushing all the right buttons. It is Matt Deutsch. Let's get into it tonight, Matt. The breaking news that we had today, and we'll lead off with the trade that the Cowboys and the Patriots consummated today. Dallas has a new backup quarterback, and his name is Joe Milton. They acquired both he and a 7th-round pick from New England in exchange for a 5th-round pick. Now, this guy was a 6th-round pick last year. He made one appearance in his rookie season, taking over for Drake May in Week 18, which didn't really matter a whole lot. The time he played was pretty awesome. Granted, again, he wasn't going against world beaters or anything like that, but he did throw for a touchdown for 241 yards, and he rushed for 16 yards and also got into the end zone as well. The Patriots had already signed Joshua Dobbs to a 2-year deal earlier in free agency, and they essentially get a draft pick for Milton, and he now gets to have the chance to be the backup quarterback behind Dak Prescott in Dallas this year. Here's the thing. If you play in a Superflex Dynasty League, I think there is some appeal here. Outside of that, Matt, I'm not getting too excited, but I do know that if Prescott were to go down at some point this year, kind of intrigued to see what Joe Milton could do. And if it is an extended absence, Milton becomes kind of valuable. Those legs, man, they're the great equalizer for quarterbacks in Dynasty Superflex leagues, and I think that's what has FFPC players excited about him.
Milton's always been that intriguing player going back to college. He's got that big arm. We saw that on display. I mean, he won that Week 18 contest, which probably pushed the Patriots down the draft board a little bit. So you have that. I mean, a lot of people were complaining. I remember that whole conversation there with Milton's like, what do you want me to do? I get one chance to show what I can do. Do you want me to tank the game so we can improve the draft pick? No, that's not how it's going to go. Milton wanted a legitimate shot at a starting position. He's been in the league now long enough where he feels like I don't want to say he's owed an opportunity, but going to Dallas, unless there's an injury, he's probably not getting on the field. Now, that being said, we've seen a lot more Cooper Rush over the last couple seasons. The Dallas Cowboys probably want to see at this point. And Cooper Rush, he's had some varying degrees of success. He's faltered from time to time too, but he's been out there and performed admirably, serviceably. I don't know what the term is. I mean, nothing great, but he's got some wins under his belt. But Milton is one of those guys who's very intriguing. When you take a look at the dynasty implications of this whole thing, he kind of falls into that whole, Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Will Levis, throw in Kyle McCord there. That whole conversation of quarterbacks that's not quite in the quarterback 2 conversation yet, but could find himself in a favorable spot if the chips kind of fall the right way. So right now, he's one of those guys you grab on your bench as your QB4. Let's see what happens. Maybe we stash him here if you got a bigger bench. But other than that, there's nothing to see here right now. But he's still young enough to possibly recover some value later on.
We have the better boss chiming in on YouTube right now. Joe Milton or Jalen Milroe in a vacuum right now. Who is the more valuable dynasty fantasy football asset between those two guys, Matt?
I think it's Milroe, only because we are hearing his name more right now than I mean, we were hearing Milton now, obviously, because of the trade, but this whole draft process has really highlighted what Milroe does. You talked about the rushing ability of Milton. Well, Milroe is probably even better with his legs than what we've seen with Milton. Coming out of college, I think Milroe's a better passer than Milton happened to be. Now, Milton, he's improved since coming into the league, but I'm willing to take a shot here on Jalen Milroe over Milton, but I think it's pretty close. I mean, you're in that same conversation there. Like I said, Milton's, the McCords, maybe throwing Tyler Show in there as well. So, I mean, you got these young rookies coming up, that Quinn Ewers, Show, Gabriel, if you want to throw him into the conversation, even though I think he's kind of diminutive for that position. But, I mean, you could put him into that kind of category, those QB 4, 5, 6, 7 kind of range, if we're comparing him to the rookies in this year's draft class.
Yeah, Gabriel's an interesting guy with all the numbers that he put up at Oregon, and yet nobody seems to be talking about him in the pros. I think because you alluded to it, he's too tiny. He's smaller. Some of the smallest quarterbacks that have come into the league that have surprised us, had great careers, he's smaller than them. So he really would be a trailblazer if Gabriel's able to come in and make some hay, as the kids say. Another piece of NFL news today came out from Arizona, where the Cardinals are going to have a brand new, I shouldn't say brand new, but they are going to have a tight end on their team that is going to be locked up for quite a while now, as Tre McBride is now the highest paid tight end in NFL history. $19 million AAV, $43 million in guaranteed money. This will be his 4th year in the NFL. Last year, career high in targets, career high in catches, career high in yardage, but only 6 touchdowns, receiving touchdowns in his career in 3 years, which seems kind of weird. But if we go back to February, Monty Ossenford, who was the GM, Matt, for the Cardinals, said extending McBride was going to be a priority, and they made good on that priority, as McBride has now inked for 4 more years. 4 more years for Tre McBride in Arizona. I think we like this as fantasy owners. I was talking about this before the show. For the dynasty leagues I have where I have McBride, I'm thrilled for this. I tend to look at my teams kind of in short windows, but McBride is clearly the extended the window. Knock on wood here that he stays healthy. But I love this for McBride right now, that the fact that he is going to be with, whether it's Kyler Murray, whether it's another quarterback in a couple years, I don't know. But you've already invested significant assets into Harrison. You've already invested significant draft capital and now financial capital if you're Arizona and McBride. This is a guy who, at worst case scenario, Matt, is locked in as the number 2 target on this team going forward. This is great for people, especially in tight end premium leagues like the FFPC that hold McBride. This is a day, I don't say you're popping the champagne, but you're definitely celebrating this contract.
If we're talking PPR, you're talking about a top 12 pass catcher. I don't care about the tight end. Remove the conversation tight end. Put him up against the best wide receivers in the league, and he is going to be in that conversation no matter how you want to look at it. He is that number 1 target hog there when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals. Mm-hmm. He is their number 1 option, and this is a Cardinals team that could be solid offensively. Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., James Conner, very underrated running back that doesn't get the respect that he deserves, by the way. This Cardinals team is making the right moves. They're building properly now, it seems. And the kicker is, I think they're getting a steal of a deal when we talk about $19 million for what McBride's doing, because really you have to put his numbers up with the top wide receivers in the game today. $19 million for a wide receiver 1 is probably a bargain if you want to take a look at it that way. And then you look at how the tight end position has typically developed over the years. We've been spoiled the last couple seasons with tight ends coming in and performing right off the get-go. It wasn't that long ago where tight ends didn't hit their peak ceiling until year 5, year 6, year 7, year 8. We're not there yet for McBride, so we might not even have seen him ascend to his final form as of yet. So the best is still to come for McBride, and I think the Cardinals are getting a good deal in the McBride signing because, like I said, not your prototypical tight end. He is your wide receiver 1 in the desert.
I think that you put it eloquently. Like, let's throw positions outside the window, right? McBride is this elite pass catcher. And then if we bring positions back into it and consider that he's a tight end in tight end premium scoring like the FFPC, mother of God, this is a honeypot right now with Tre McBride. And the Cardinals have put the financial backing behind it, regardless of what they do at quarterback. I know there's a lot of people that believe Kyler Murray should not be the QB there. But even if he is going forward, this is a big thing for McBride. And the touchdowns, Matt, they're going to come, right? Like, I put that is not a sticky stat. It would not surprise me at all if he gets double-digit touchdowns this year.
It's crazy. Look at where he finished amongst wide receivers as far as fantasy points are concerned, and take a look at the touchdown regression. We're talking about a tight end who put up wide receiver 1 numbers without scoring touchdowns. It's not going to be like that every year where he doesn't score touchdowns. It's not going to be like Deontay Johnson having like 300 catches in a single season without finding the end zone. They're going to find a way to manufacture touches for Tre McBride. It's going to happen at some point. Last season, I think, was kind of an outlier to where McBride is going in the future. So, I mean, what you're getting right now with Tre McBride and his fantasy value, I think that's his floor when we're talking about fantasy production.
Let's move on and talk about a very, I don't want to say polarizing player, but maybe he is polarizing, quite frankly, right now when you look at Rashee Rice in Kansas City. The news that we got this week, Matt, was that out of the Kansas City Star, Andy Reid was quoted as saying Rashee Rice is on track to be ready for training camp. Reid said, quote, "We'll see. He's working his tail off right now. I know. He tore his LCL, end quote, by the way. He tore his LCL in week 4 of this past season. And that's a pretty good spot right now. If you can, if you're going to tear a knee ligament, do it in September, do it in early October. Don't do it after that. Hollywood Brown is back. Xavier Worthy, obviously back for his sophomore campaign. The Chiefs can work Rice in slowly if they need to. This is pretty good. And quite frankly, in 2024, before he tore his LCL, he was had already had 24 catches under his belt, just under 300 yards in 2 games. That was all in 2 touchdowns in 4 games. So basically 1 month. That's what it was going to be a baller season for Rice if he kept up that pace. The other thing that we have to mention with Rashee Rice is the potential for a suspension because of what happened last year with the street racing and leaving the scene of an accident, so on and so forth. So I think when we consider Rashee Rice, everything that's going on around him right now, I lean, and I'm not saying this is a strong play here, Matt, but in dynasty leagues, I lean towards him being a buy. I think there are certain people who may own Rashee Rice that do not have the endowment effect that would be willing to get off of Rashee Rice in an 80 cents on the dollar, perhaps an 85 cents on the dollar deal, knowing that just because he had this street racing thing doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the only off-field issue. And he has this LCL injury. Yeah, everything's going good, but there's no guarantee that he comes back really healthy this year. And certainly there might be some people that are willing to move off of him at the right price. I lean towards him being a buy in dynasty leagues, but it's a finite thing. Like some people, it would not be a buy because they overvalue him right now. How are you looking at when you specifically analyze what you think is going to happen with Rashee Rice in 2025? What kind of a season is he in for?
I'm buying. I mean, I'm maybe the guy who's overvaluing Rashee Rice here right now. I'm Canadian. I'm used to paying 70 cents on the dollar. I mean, anytime I go down the States, the exchange rate it doesn't favor me very often. So
right.
I take a look at Rashee Rice, and I'm buying if there's any kind of discount, the injury discount, the suspension discount, he's going to be suspended. We're probably looking at 4 games when it's all said and done. Again, not a lawyer. I don't have any information about how this is going to go, just based on some things that the NFL likes to do from time to time. But if you take a look at what Rashee Rice has done in the last 9 games, we're talking about 69 receptions on 85 targets. We're talking about 687 yards. We're talking about 3 yards per route run. He's never going to be cheaper than he is right now. So if you want to get in on the Rashee Rice, this is the time to do it. Because if you don't get in on it before week 3, I mean, there's no point in me selling. If I have Rashee Rice on my roster, I'm not the guy selling on 70 cents on a dollar because I'm not going to get the return of my investment, because I know once we get past week number 4, I already got through the whole season last season without Rashee Rice. So I know that my roster can sustain any kind of productivity without him there. So why would I sell him cheaper? Now, if you got someone who wants to get off him, I'm all about buying. Hey, I will buy him at current cost if that's what it takes without the deal, because I know that value is going to continue to climb. I got him as my wide receiver 13 in Dynasty right now. That's like Jamar Chase, Jefferson St. Brown, Neighbors, Lamb, Collins, Nakua, Garrett Wilson, Brian Thomas Jr., A.J. Brown, Drake London, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, Rashee Rice. They're right there at that 12-13 spot for me. Rice is a wide receiver 1 in Dynasty, no matter how you want to look at it. Buy him now while you can, because the price is only going to go up.
The fact that they have Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City throwing to him, I think that can't be underrated. We know that Travis Kelce is coming back for checks notes 38th year in the NFL this year. But after this year, we don't know. And Rashee Rice honestly could be not only the de facto number 1, but really, truly, in every sense of the word, the number 1 wideout, number 1 pass catcher in Kansas City in 2026. So yeah, wheels up for Rashee Rice. I'm with you. I think now's the time to buy. And to your point, if you are looking to acquire him, this is the time to get him, because his value is probably only going to go up from here on out. Maybe a little bit of a dip in July, but that's arbitrary. I don't even know if that's going to happen. You mentioned one of the receivers you have ahead of Rice right now in Garrett Wilson, Matt. Rich Cimini, who covers the Jets for, I believe, The Athletic, quoted Aaron Glenn this week saying that the team is going to look to get Garrett Wilson the ball quote, as much as possible, which is what you love to hear if you are a if you are a Garrett Wilson owner. The depth chart still has currently, believe it or not, Alan Lazard as the number 2 target on this team. They probably will attack the wide receiver position in the draft. Maybe even the tight end. I don't know. Tyler Conklin is no longer a New York Jet here. But when you think about Aaron Rodgers not throwing to Devontae Adams in New York because neither one of them will be there this year, Matt, and you consider Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson being the QB1 to the wide receiver 1 combo that fantasy owners are going to be enjoying. These guys were college teammates at Ohio State. Say what you will about Justin Fields. His legs are amazing. I think he's underrated as a thrower. I can't remember. I might have brought this up on the show last week or 2 weeks ago. Somebody I was watching or listening to or reading this past month said that this could be, might have been Matt Kelly, honestly, from Player Profiler, said that this could be the best, most accurate quarterback that Garrett Wilson's ever played with in Justin Fields, which is weird to say, but it could be true. How do you feel about Garrett Wilson in dynasty leagues right now, knowing that they really don't have another target opposite him right now to take pressure off of him, and knowing that it's going to be Fields as the plan A for Aaron Glenn's Jets this season? Do we have Matt on mute right now? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
there we go.
I have a bad habit of doing that. I got all this pick patter going on. I'm trying to keep it out here. I was on a roll too. If you can see my face when I was talking there, I love Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson connection here this season. I mean, the one thing that Justin Fields does incredibly well is hit the deep ball. In 2023, DJ Moore averaged 27.7 deep receiving yards per game. Do you remember? That was the 8th most. Don't forget, Darnell Mooney was a factor at one point in fantasy under Justin Fields as well. So we know that that RPO action, having Breece Hall in the backfield, having Justin Fields' ability to scramble out of the pocket and pick up yards, teams are going to be focusing down there in the run game because everyone knows Justin Fields can run the ball. We also know that Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, Breece Hall, whoever's running the ball is going to have a success because of all that extra tension Justin Fields is going to garner as far as a runner is concerned. But we got to remember, he's also a very good deep ball passer here. That's something we can't forget. And we talk about separation. And I love this. We had this, the old ass stat there over at Fantasy Points.
Yeah.
Separation score.
Yes.
And you take a look at that against man coverage per Fantasy Points data. We're looking at 0.52. That's the 12th best separation score in man coverage for Garrett Wilson. So those deep shots, Garrett Wilson's going to find himself getting open more often than not, especially against man coverage. And we talk about that hit rate on that deep ball. Aaron Rodgers, he was 34th with a hit rate of about 12.4%. Justin Fields, he led all quarterbacks connecting at a 22.5% hit rate. So we've got a already pre-established connection between a very good wide receiver who can get separation and a quarterback that can hit the deep ball. For me, I'm looking at the work that's already done. DJ Moore, fantasy relevant as a wide receiver. Darnell Mooney, fantasy relevant as a wide receiver. Even George Pickens had a degree of success with Justin Fields until Russ started cooking some ravioli in the back room and somehow found himself being a starter, even though Justin Fields is 4-1. Makes no sense. Yeah. Russell Wilson is cooked. Sorry, Steelers fans, you guys dropped the ball there with Justin Fields. I get it. If you don't think he's the quarterback of the future, fine. But the bottom line is, he is good. He's going to be good for this offense, and there's pieces in place for this Jets offense to be successful. It's going to be better than it was with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was horrible last season. There's no other way to spin it. You got Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson, and you can't get this offense cooking. I mean, shame on you. Shame on you there in New York. But I love what we have here for fantasy. I think Garrett Wilson he's a hold right now. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not going to go out there and buy him. I don't think you're going to get him cheap by any stretch, but there's people that seriously believe that Justin Fields is going to hurt his stock as far as the fantasy asset is concerned. And I don't buy that. I don't, because I've seen him actually elevate the stock of DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney in the Chicago Bears offense. That was the best running offense in the league.
I am with you on this, and I don't buy the fact that this is a bad thing for Garrett Wilson. I'll say this as well. Justin Fields played in an offense, and maybe this is me overstepping my bounds here, but he played in an offense last year that was run by Arthur Smith, who loves to run the football, loves to throw the football to the tight ends. That's not what is going to be happening in New York this year. They have I want to say Tanner Eggstand is the offensive coordinator for Aaron Glenn in New York. I could be wrong on that. The better boss will look that up if I am wrong. But he comes from Detroit, where he worked under Ben Johnson, who is a really accomplished play caller and offensive coordinator. And I got to believe that Eggstand is going to be accentuating the strengths of this offense, the strengths of Fields, the strengths of Wilton, rather than, driving the ball to Davis and Allen and Hall, 45, 50 times a game, and usurping fantasy value there. I'm a fan of Fields to Wilson. If it worst case scenario, I think it's the same as it was last season, but I think in most scenarios, it's going to be better. You mentioned the Steelers. We got to talk about the Steelers here, because this is a backfield in flux, not only at running back, but at quarterback. I'm going to start with running back. Mike DeFabo, who covers the Steelers for The Athletic, said that the Pittsburgh could be looking at drafting a running back in the draft. No surprise there. The Steelers do not have Najee Harris anymore. He is now a Los Angeles Charger. They signed Kenneth Gainwell to play alongside Jaylen Warren. Matt, to me, that is a running back 2, maybe best case scenario, running back 1B, and a running back 3. They do not have a 1A. Mike Tomlin towed the company line, talking about everything that Gainwell does very well for this offense, which is fine. But he also talked about, in the same breath, how deep this draft is at running back. And you think about Dylan Sampson, you think about the Ohio State guys. These are also all possibilities to be matched up with Jaylen Warren this year. If I could, and I play in a lot of dynasty leagues with sharp players, so I don't think I could get rid of Jaylen Warren at this point for what his purported value might be. I have just written into pen that Pittsburgh will be drafting a running back, probably not on Thursday, but I think on Friday in round 2 or round 3, and he is going to be the 1A. Really? Round 3? Okay, hold on. Day 3, you're saying right now, Matt, for Pittsburgh's running back?
I'm going to say round 3. They don't have a second round pick in that DK Metcalf trade. Okay. So you got to take that second round out of there. The earliest I think it would be, because of how deep this draft is, would be the 3rd round, maybe the 4th round, because there's no big rush to get a running back because of how deep this running back class is. Bill Hollywood just kind of mentioned it here. Mm-hmm. Damian Martinez is one of those guys that is a lot better than what he's getting credit for. If you're talking about a running back that you can get later, who's going to give you value of like the big names, we're talking like Trevion Henderson here. We're talking Quinshawn Judkins here. He's one of those guys who could potentially elevate his game to that same realm that you're going to get in round 4 or round 5. So I take a look at this. Like, if I'm the Steelers, I'm going to go, okay, we know Genty, he's going early on. We know Hampton's probably going in the 1st round. And then we take a look at the rest of these running backs. Judkins, Henderson, one of those guys may find themselves in the 1st round. If not, they're both going by the 2nd round. Caleb Johnson, another guy probably in the 2nd round. And then you kind of get to those guys that could be 2nd round, 3rd round. Cam Scappo. You mentioned Dylan Sampson. He's a guy that could possibly be there. RJ Harvey and Damian Martinez are guys I think you can get a little bit later that are going to give you more bang for your buck based on where you're selecting them. And I think that's what the Steelers want to do, because they went that route with Najee Harris, where they took a running back early on. They've got Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren is not a bell cow back. We saw him get an opportunity. He did not execute with that opportunity. He is a great number 2, where if you're going to kind of give him some time, split some carries, he's going to be successful. If you're going to give him the workload, you're not going to see that production. Tony Pollard a couple seasons ago, we saw him have a heck of a season splitting carries with Ezekiel Elliott when he was given the opportunity to be the guy. He didn't exactly produce at the same rate that we kind of hope. And Brooks is one of my favorite running backs there at Texas Tech too. I love him. I got him inside my top 10 amongst the running backs in this year's class. I'm a little higher on him than most people. But again, another guy that makes a lot of sense. That's how deep the running back group is. Defensive line, corners, running backs. These are positions that are going to push value down the board as this draft goes on. So I don't think there's a big need for the Steelers to go out there in round 3. They're certainly not going to go round 1. They got other needs that they need to take care of. I love Jackson Dart potentially at 21 if he somehow slid down. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't think these quarterbacks are as good as they're getting credit for, but because of the positional needs, they're going to get pushed up the board as well. So it happens every draft cycle. It's going to be fun to watch. I do think Steelers need a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers, he's not the guy. We don't know if he's going to be the guy even right now. Who knows? He's probably on another darkness retreat, smoking who knows what in the dark. I don't know what's going on. Good for him. All the power to him. He's got his $40 million that the Jets let him walk away from. He can do whatever the heck he wants this offseason. It don't matter. He's got no rush. But the Steelers, they need to find themselves a quarterback. I thought Milton would have made a lot of sense for them too. So
yeah.
There's some options for them on the table, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers wait until day number 3 because of how deep this running back class happens to be.
I want to, as long as we're going to talk about the Steelers quarterback situation here, this is a team that made the playoffs last year that really fell down the stretch, and they have a lot of questions in the backfield. You hit the nail on the head with RJ Harvey. I think that would be, I know he's maybe more of a duplication of a skill set when it comes to Jaylen Warren and Kenny Gainwell, but I think those 3 can make it work in the Pittsburgh backfield. Bill Hollywood mentioned Damian Martinez, who would be the banger there to pair with Warren and Gainwell. I could see that working as well. The gist of this is what I'm saying is, you reminded me on this, Matt, no second round pick this year. So you got the first round, you got the third round. Jackson Dart is probably going to be a first round pick this year. Whether that's by Pittsburgh, whether that's, by somebody else, I don't know. But even if you sign Aaron Rodgers, if you're the Steelers, and I my local radio show I do here in Northeast Wisconsin, every week I have a transplanted Pittsburgh Steelers fan that comes on and talks to me about this. And he's like, yeah, I think you guys got it right with how you treated Rodgers with Favre and how you treated Love with Rodgers. The Steelers have an opportunity to do this year where they can draft the guy in the first round, let him sit for 2025, and then maybe take over for Rodgers in 2026, assuming they do sign Rodgers or what have you. But I do think that quarterback, as well as running back, has to be at the forefront of how you're treating this draft. If you're Pittsburgh, knowing that you could pick in the first round, knowing you could pick in the third round, you can maybe make a deal to get up to the second round. But I think you got to try to come away with Jackson Dart in this draft, because if you don't, now you're not only relying on Aaron Rodgers in 2025, but probably 2026 as well. And I don't know if that's a winning recipe.
Yeah, when I look at these quarterbacks, I mean, for me, I'm not as big on these quarterbacks as a lot of people. But after you get past the Jackson Darts, the Cam Wards, the Shadir Sanders, I mean, it's a considerable drop-off going to Quinn Ewers, McCord, Show. I mean, there's a drop-off there that I'm not comfortable with. Even in fantasy, you play fantasy leagues, you go in these rookie drafts, after those first 3 guys come off the board, it's a round or 2 before you start talking about these next quarterbacks. And if we as fantasy analysts are looking at this and making these decisions where we're degrading certain quarterbacks for fantasy, then NFL teams are probably doing the very same thing here with their big boards. And like I said, I've just finished my big board there over at RotoBaller, and I've only got the 3 quarterbacks in my top 50.
I think I have to ask this, and we'll talk about running backs in a little bit. What's the percentage chance in the Matt Donnelly crystal ball that we see 3 quarterbacks going in round 1 3 weeks from today?
I think it's a very good chance. I mean, we know
would you put it higher than 75?
I would probably put it about 70% right now. Okay. I feel pretty good about it. I mean, we look at these teams in my last mock draft, my 3.0 there over at RotoBaller. I had Tennessee going with Cam Ward. I had originally, I think I had Shadir Sanders going to the New York Giants just because it made a lot of sense before the Russell Wilson. And you just mentioned this, what the Green Bay Packers have done. Favre, Rodgers, Love, it makes a lot of sense for them to even consider Sanders there, even with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. I love Deion Sanders talking about that'd be the greatest prayer circle of all time and how that would all break down. But the Giants don't have their future quarterback on that roster. So depending on where Abdul Carter falls, where Travis Hunter, where they believe him, I think they make a lot of sense at the quarterback position. And then you have to kind of go down the draft board where the Pittsburgh Steelers have to be. I thought the Jets would have looked at Jackson Dart before the Justin Fields signing. That's kind of changed things a little bit. But there's really no other. Could New Orleans go for a quarterback there with Jackson Dart? Maybe find an heir apparent to Derek Carr at some point. They've got some other needs there as well. But there's some movement there. I do think we're going to see 3 quarterbacks drafted. I think we're going to see the 3 that we're talking about get drafted. And maybe it's one of those teams like the Cleveland Browns. Maybe the Cleveland Browns jump back into round 1 from round 2. They've got that early second-round pick that they can package as 2 and a 4, whatever they have to do to get back in this first round there. Grab Jackson Dart if he slides, or Shadir Sanders if he slides, or however that kind of works out to, and get that 5th-year option at the position.
I think that'd be fantastic if it works out that way for Cleveland, where let's say they pass and they take Carter or whoever first, and then they trade back into the second round and grab Dart or grab Sanders, and then you pair him with, whoever you took earlier, whether it's Abdul Carter, whether it's Travis Hunter, I don't know. I think that is a win. Frank Langella from Draft Day would say we had a good day, right? If that happens with Cleveland, we'll see what happens 3 weeks from today. One of the most talked about teams for the second straight year in fantasy in the offseason is the Chicago Bears, Matt. Ben Johnson, who is the new head coach there, said that they're going to, quote, go back to the basics in the offseason, end quote, for Caleb Williams and the offense there. Ben Johnson is going to be working with Caleb Williams exclusively this offseason. Williams obviously has had no shortage of experience in the shotgun formation, but so Johnson wants to get him equally as comfortable going under center. Williams, 3,500 passing yards last year, but he took 68 sacks. Now, some of that was on him, yes, but some of it was on that offensive line, which the Bears have gone out and done a lot of stuff to fix that offensive line here going forward. Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, we love that pairing for fantasy. I don't know what's going to happen with Keenan Allen. He's probably not going to be there, but Rome Odunze should take a step forward. I'm hearing more and more support for Cole Kmet this season, getting Ben Johnson to be the head coach there. And then obviously what they can do in the draft. Maybe they get Ashton Genty. We'll talk about that later on, but they could draft Ashton Genty in the first round to really solidify that backfield. Your thoughts personally on Caleb Williams and this Bears offense as it enters into year 2 under that era?
Well, Ben Johnson knows how an offensive line should be built. He's come from the Dan Campbell coaching tree there in Detroit, where they just wanted to ground and pound and beat you up, bite ankles, whatever they had to do. That's what the Detroit Lions are going to do. And I think that's what Ben Johnson really wants to do. That's what gets his offense going. You mentioned the 68 sacks. What you didn't mention was the fact that those 68 sacks, they resulted in a whole lot of yards lost last season. I think it was 466 sack yards accompanied those 68 sacks. That's a lot of yardage to be losing. And Caleb Williams is going to be under center. And if you're going to put a quarterback under center, you better sure up that interior offensive line. And that's what the Bears did. They went out there and got guards, Jonah Jackson from the Rams and Joe Thuney there from the Chiefs. Then they went out there and they signed Drew Dolman, the center from the Atlanta Falcons. All these pieces were very good when they were healthy and in action there. So you're going to see a quarterback that's going to be a lot more confident back there. You're going to see a run game that's been good, that's going to get even better because they're going to be able to push the defensive line back. They're going to be able to do some things that they weren't able to do. Ben Johnson wants to have, you mentioned it, they go out there and get Ashton Genty out there as well, a guy who can do just about anything and everything you ask of him. He makes a lot of sense for the Bears. I think the Bears have some other needs, but hey, throughout this whole draft process, I've been talking about the Bears drafting an offensive lineman. There's no need now to draft an offensive lineman. They've taken that basically off their board altogether with 2 solid tackles and then the moves that they made to shore up that interior. So they really now could go out there and get another weapon for them. They could go get another wide receiver. They can do a bunch of different things here to support Caleb Williams moving forward. By the way, he's one of the most supported quarterbacks heading into this year's last year's draft anyway with the weapons, but that offensive line was a glaring weakness, and that's now been solidified. It's going to be one of the better offensive lines across the league. So I do like the fact they're going to put him under center. I do like the idea that they're going to be Ben Johnson calling the plays there. It's going to be fun watching what the Chicago Bears can do. There's no questioning Caleb Williams' talent. That's never been a question. There's been some other questions, some other flags that we've kind of asked ourselves since last year's draft process and going through that whole thing. But his talent has never been in question.
I think the other thing to keep in mind here, too, is when we look at the best offensive lines in the league over the last 10, 15, 20 years, historically, they all get to the playoffs, and a lot of them make deep playoff runs. The Bears did not have the offensive line. They had the sexy pass catchers, right? Odunze and Moore and Allen, Kmet, Swift, whatever, and Caleb Williams, obviously. Why did they flounder last year? It was because they did not have good enough play from those 5 guys up front. That should not be the case this year. And they have, in my opinion, a more talented, forward-thinking coach. It should be wheels up for the Bears this year. If it doesn't happen, maybe the franchise is just cursed. I don't know. But I'm very bullish on the Bears this season. And we'll see what they do in the draft, because this could make them not only a divisional contender in a very tough division with Minnesota, Detroit, and Green Bay, but maybe a threat to get to the Super Bowl, dare I say it, in 2025 as well. Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones are going to be splitting reps when training camp rolls around in Indianapolis. This according to head coach Shane Steichen. Steichen has always said, hey, we need to get this guy as many reps as possible. This is a player that started, Matt, 8 games at the University of Florida in college before he was drafted. He needed reps, and now apparently his own head coach is taking those reps away and giving them to the pride of Duke University, Daniel Jones. The Colts signed Jones to a 1-year, $14 million deal this offseason. He is getting just over $13 million guaranteed, 1,800 passing yards, 8 passing touchdowns, 12 interceptions last year for Anthony Richardson. I have never been more down on Richardson. I thought he was a bit of a cheat code last year. And in those leagues where I'm like, got him, I'm going to take Richardson here instead of waiting on Jaden Daniels. I'm just kicking myself right now. There were some leagues where I did let somebody else draft Richardson and I drafted Daniels later, but I wish that would have been in all my leagues. This year, I don't think that is going to happen. Richardson is going later than he ever has been. As far as Dynasty goes, is there a proper way to treat this? Because I feel like if you want to get rid of Richardson in a Dynasty Superflex league, you might get something for him. Is it equal value if he wins the job? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at my board here right now, and I got his value for Dynasty. In that Geno Smith, Bryce Young type range right now. And Bryce Young's been moving up with how he concluded last season, but right now Richardson's value it's on the decline. And when we're hearing about him splitting training camp reps with Daniel Jones doesn't need the reps. He's a veteran. He knows what he's going to do. He's had the starts. He's been there. He's done that. He started at Duke. He started with the Giants. We know what Daniel Jones is capable of doing. It's not great, by the way, but we know what he's capable of doing. Anthony Richardson, for all his warts, he still has that upside, that intrigue, that running ability. We've watched him hit the deep ball. He's a great deep ball thrower. He's got a cannon of an arm. We've also seen what he can do with Josh Downs there in short passing. It's the intermediate areas that have absolutely eaten up Anthony Richardson. He's been horrible when it comes to accuracy, especially those intermediate areas where he needs to get better. What have they done to support him in getting better in those areas? You don't have yourself a good tight end. Maybe go draft a Tyler Ward. Maybe go Colson Loveland. Get a tight end that's going to be able to eat up coverage there in the intermediate areas. Get yourself your deep shot. Get your guys underneath. This is what you want to do to support a guy like Anthony Richardson. Not take away snaps from a guy that you've already admitted. When you drafted him, you knew you needed to give him reps. And now he hasn't had those reps. He's going into year 3 right now. I don't know, but he hasn't even played half a season in all his opportunities because of the injuries. Now, part of that is his style of play. We've talked about the mobile quarterbacks where they take unnecessary shots from time to time, and that's happened to Richardson a little bit here and there, but you knew that. You knew that's what you got going in there. That's why you have to have a dependable backup quarterback, and you know they've had that with Gardner Minshew there in Indianapolis. But I don't think Daniel Jones is the guy you want to bring in, a guy who started in this league time and time again, who really is pushing for that starter's position. Daniel Jones isn't there to be the backup quarterback at $14 million. It's not the case. Richardson knows this. His psyche is already kind of probably a little fragile over everything that's happened the last couple of years. He was pulled, put back in, pulled, put back in, pulled multiple times last season. How is a quarterback going to get anything accomplished in that whole thing? Every time you pull him, now you're putting another quarterback in, getting those first team reps. He's not getting reps even in practice. So we're talking about practice here. You're not giving him any. So what do you think is going to happen? You're not going to get a return on your investment. And it's a shame. The Colts have punted this whole situation altogether. I don't like this from Dynasty. I don't like this from the Colts. Daniel Jones is not that quarterback who's going to put you over. He's going to keep you mediocre. That's what Daniel Jones does. He's mediocre. He's vanilla. He's whatever you want to call him. They're not going to be a top team. They're not going to come in contend for that AFC South title. They're going to be too good to get a good draft pick. They're going to be in purgatory with Daniel Jones.
I think the thing I have to ask you here, from a redraft fantasy standpoint, Matt, who would you rather have win the starting job come week one, Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson, if you owned Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, maybe whoever the Colts drafted in the first round at tight end, all those guys, the pass catchers, the skill position guys, if you have those guys in Dynasty or redraft, who do you want throwing the ball to them?
So it really depends on who you have. If I have Michael Pittman, I want Daniel Jones. Pittman had more success with Gardner Minshew. Again, that's it. Michael Pittman's kind of that intermediate guy. If I've got Josh Downs, I want Anthony Richardson as the guy throwing the ball. If I've got Jonathan Taylor, I probably actually want Anthony Richardson. And I know everyone's like, well, Anthony Richardson's going to vulture touchdowns, goal. What do you think Daniel Jones does? I mean, when he's not tripping over his own feet on a 40-yard scramble, Daniel Jones is still a mobile quarterback. He still has rushing ability. It's not like they lose that rushing ability. It's not like Daniel Jones is a statue back there. He's going to run for yardage too. So depending on who you have, I think that's kind of what you want to go with. If I got Tyler Warner, Cole Loveland here coming to Indianapolis, I probably want Richardson too, because I know he's going to be they're going to be a friendly option to Richardson moving forward. So I think I'd rather have Richardson unless I own Pittman on my roster.
Dominic Gazzetti, my good buddy who I hang out with at the KFFSC every year, he says he'd rather grab Bo Nix for the same potential that Anthony Richardson offers, but with an arguably better offense, which could be better after the draft too, and a year of proof. And my contention to that is I think you got to pay more of a premium to get Bo Nix, whether it's redraft, whether it's dynasty. He is going to cost you more than Richardson would right now.
Oh, 100%. I've got Richardson.
But I'm with him. I'm with him 100% on this, Matt, and it sounds like you are too.
And I'll pay the extra premium to get Nix. I mean, I got Nix as a top 10 dynasty quarterback right now. He's right there. I got him right there with CJ Stroud, Jordan Love, Kyler Murray, Drake May. He's in that conversation amongst the quarterbacks. Meanwhile, like I said, Anthony Richardson's down there with rookies that we haven't even seen in the NFL, and Quinn Ewers and Tyler Shaw, Geno Smith, who's kind of, he's going to have a good couple seasons here with Las Vegas, but he's not going to be there much longer. He's right there. We're comparing Richardson with Daniel Jones. Meanwhile, we're talking about Bo Nix in the same conversation as Kyler Murray and Caleb Williams, even for that matter.
I want to go back to what Mr. Bakes-a-Lot said in the chat earlier when we were talking about Tre McBride and that big extension he got. How do we feel about him? How does he compare to Brock Bowers? If you are in a dynasty league, Matt, and somebody offers you Tre McBride and a 2026 first round pick, so not this year, but next year, if somebody offers you that, is that a good enough return for you to give up Brock Bowers?
I don't know if it's a good enough return. I think it's a fair offer. I do have Brock Bowers at 1. I got Tre McBride at 2. I think it really comes down to your roster construction and where you feel that first-round pick is going to be, because not all first-round picks are created equal.
Right.
We don't know what we're going to have in next year's draft. I think the whole NIL thing has changed the entire landscape of draft players. We're watching quarterbacks stay in the college football longer because they're developing more in college than they will in the pro game. We're watching players get paid more money to play college football than they're going to get on that first contract in the NFL. I mean, Manning's already making about $6 million a year playing for the Texas Longhorns. He's not going to. He might get it, but it's not the same. So we're going to see players stay in college longer. So we can't say, hey, this guy's draft eligible in 2025. It doesn't mean he's going to come out. So I think we have to be really careful when we're talking about draft picks. I don't think they carry the same value maybe they once did, especially if you're trying to look at things. But I do believe that McBride and a first is more than fair for Bowers. It just kind of comes down to where you have them. So on that trade chart that I kind of alluded to, that anytime you go to my Dynasty market report, Eric, you talked about that at the beginning of the show there.
Yeah.
That's my once a month Dynasty report, values going up and down. I do include my Dynasty trade chart in every single thing. So right now I do have Bowers considerably higher, where the difference between the two of them is an early second round pick. So I do think the value is there, but it comes down to, do you really want to move Bowers? Is this a tight end premium league? I mean, if it's a tight end premium league, I'm probably going to keep Bowers because of that touchdown differential between the two of them. I do think there's, like I said, McBride, that it's going to come up, but I do have Bowers as that number one tight end right now.
I'm going to say this right now. If I was presented this trade, my heart would say, no, I'm keeping Bowers. I am not trading Brock Bowers, who looks like an unbelievable wunderkind at the tight end position. I'm not trading him for Tre McBride, who probably is the de facto Dynasty tight end number 2 right now, and a future 2026 first rounder. That is what my heart is telling me. So I probably wouldn't do it. However, if I was able to, let me go back. My brain is telling me that there could be some regression coming from Bowers this year. I don't know why. I just know what happens. I know that nobody has had a rookie pass catching season like Bowers did. The tight end season he had in 2024 was rare. So just in my mind, it tells me there's regression coming for Bowers. And you're telling me I can get the number 2 tight end plus a future 2026 first rounder for Bowers? Yeah, I'm doing that all day. So my brain is telling me, make the deal. My heart is saying, don't make the deal. So I don't know if I really have actionable fantasy advice on this. If I had to say one way or the other, again, it kind of what you alluded to. I think it would depend upon where my team was at in Dynasty, but I think I would probably do that deal. I think I'd rather have McBride in the future first, even if it's the 112. And I could be wrong on that, but that's the way I lean towards it right now. I often bring this up a lot on the show, Matt. Ask me the same question tomorrow, and I may say, no, I'm taking Bowers all day. That's how close this is. A great question from Mr. Bakes a lot. Okay. This also coming from Cullen Hoffman on the YouTube channel right now. If they take Ashton Genty, they being the Raiders, I think that does hurt Brock Bowers' long-term efficiency value. And I don't see anything changes offensively in Arizona for McBride. So you do have sort of the locked in, you know what you're getting with McBride, whereas the Raiders could take, they could take Genty. Quite frankly, they could take Tataroa and McMillan in with that first pick this year. I don't think that might surprise some people. I don't think it would shock anyone. But I don't think the Arizona Cardinals have that shock factor with where they're picking that would really drastically affect Tre McBride after this deal today. So that is something, Matt, that we have to weigh in on this as well.
100%. In my mock drafts here, I'll be doing 4.0 here later this month. And I've mocked McMillan to the Raiders. I've mocked Genty to the Raiders. For the Cardinals in the first round, it's usually looking at defensive tackle or an offensive lineman each time through. So I do think that is a very strong observation that Colin was making when he was talking about what if. But unfortunately, in this scenario, we don't know what the what if is. I don't know if Hunter Renfro's father, Brock Bowers, is going to be any better or worse moving into next season. So, like I said, I think the value there is there. I think it's a fair offer, and I really could go either way. And I think it really comes down to your roster construction and what you need. If you need a first-round pick, if you have a gap at wide receiver, if you have a gap at running back, most notably this season, then it makes a lot of sense for you to do it. If you've got a stacked lineup where you're 3 deep at wide receiver, 2 solid running backs, you have Bowers at your tight end, you don't need to necessarily make that move to get that additional draft pick. Or if you have an aging roster, it makes sense to make that move too. So it really comes down to how that roster is constructed. In a vacuum, it makes a lot of sense. It's a fair offer, and I'll leave it at that. But I think it comes down to what you're playing with here before you pull the trigger on that deal.
Matt, there's so much I wanted to get to in this first segment, but we're way over. So here's what I want to do. I want to step out. We can catch our breath. And when we come back, I want to talk about that article that we referenced at the top of the show that you do every single month for RotoBaller, where you talk about all these players that have drastically changed their ranking in the RotoBaller composite rankings as far as Dynasty goes. I want to get your personal takes on it. We'll do that next. We're going to talk about Drake May. We're going to talk about Matthew Golden. We're going to talk about George Kittle. We're going to talk about Isaiah Pacheco and much more. You're watching the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show presented by the FFPC on the Better Sports Network. He is Matt Donnelly from Fantasy Points and RotoBaller. I'm Eric Balkman. Don't go anywhere. We roll on next.
What's up, guys? Andrew Cooper here of Fantasy Alarm. And for me, the football season never sleeps. It doesn't. I don't care if the Super Bowl's over. I'm still rocking and rolling. And the best way to do that is with Dynasty Fantasy Football, because you can play all year round and you can get started right now. You can go in and play two different ways at myffpc.com. You can do a startup draft where you can go in and draft all the players from scratch and load up on rookie picks, especially if you like this rookie class. You want, Cam Ward or Ted McMillan. You can load up on those picks, get all those players, lock them in for the rest of their careers. Or you can go over and play a different way. You can pick up an orphan team. Sometimes people decide they don't want to play. FFPC will never fold those leagues. They just put those teams back up, and you can bid on them. You can pick them up and take over those teams, right? You check out what kind of picks they have, what kind of players they have. Sometimes you can even get a discount. Just make sure it's a team you like, grab them, and you're off and running. And then you're ready for this draft when it comes around at the end of April here. MyFFPC.com. If you've never played, use promo code ALARM. They'll give you $25 when you deposit $35 or more for your first time. And you can go get set up. You can do a startup. You can pick up an orphan team. You can start playing Dynasty right now, the game that never sleeps, the game that goes all year round.
FFPC Big Gorilla is alive and well at myffpc.com. So are the Dynasty Orphans, which I shouldn't say they're alive and well because they are dwindling. A lot of people picking up the last few orphans we have for the 2025 season. The entry fees normally range from $77 up to $5,000. Some of them have been lowered all the way to $1. Pretty much all of them have been lowered at this point. 1,800 plus leagues over the last decade and a half. Not a single one has ever folded with the FFPC. That's why you should play Dynasty there. That's why you should also play the Never Too Early Best Ball tournaments there as well. The Superflex and the Classic tournament going off right now. $40,000, $10,000 grand prize, $125, $35 entry fees there as well. Those tournaments will run all the way. They started in January. They will go all the way up from 3 weeks till today, from today, when the NFL first round draft starts. 30-second, 60-second, 2-hour, and 6-hour clocks. Sign up now at myffpc.com. I am Eric Balkman, and I am joined tonight by the incomparable Matt Donnelly from Fantasy Points and RotoBaller. Speaking of RotoBaller, something that you do, Matt, every single time, every single month in this offseason here is you compare the composite rankings of all the RotoBallers to how they change from month to month. And what I want to do tonight is take it a step further, not only talking about whether these guys are, going up or down. That's factually, like, you can see whether these guys are going up or down in the Dynasty rankings. I want to get your input on whether these guys are going too high or going too low right now in Dynasty. Like, in other words, if it was the Matt Donnelly Dynasty rankings right now, and there were no other RotoBallers on this, if you were the sole person who was ranking these players, Do you think that this guy is going too high or going too low? We'll go with quarterback, running back, receiver, and tight end, basically, is how I want to go. And we'll start off with the quarterback. Now, one of the first guys I want to talk about here is the guy, the man, the myth, the legend, the Patrick Mahomes right now, who is fallen 9 spots over the course of the last month from February to March or whatever it was, March to April. 9 spots he is down. Your thoughts on whether he's falling too far? And I think we can take into account the age of Travis Kelce, the unknown of Rashee Rice as he recovers from his knee injury, as he is dealing with a potential suspension. Is Xavier Worthy for real? I mean, we obviously saw a great end to the season. Is that going to continue? Just kind of your thoughts on Mahomes right now, because some of these other guys are kind of like in flux a little bit, the pass catchers that he's throwing to. How should we view Mahomes right now in Dynasty ranking at the quarterback position?
I'm down on Mahomes. I mean, I'm one of those guys that's kind of pushed him down the board, and it's nothing really against Mahomes as a player, but we take a look at the numbers. As far as fantasy is concerned, good quarterback, but dare I say, he's kind of getting himself into that game manager conversation.
Oh,
here.
my God.
Oh, yeah. You look at the numbers. Like, we're talking QB. I mean, everyone's drafting him as QB2, QB3, QB4, but the fantasy production has not met that. We're talking QB 10, QB 11, QB 12 from a production standpoint. So I think where he's going right now, like I got him at, I think it's like 57th overall, just ahead of guys like Justin Herbert and Caleb Williams, but he comes in behind Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts. Like he's not in that elite conversation. And I think when we talk about this, like if I've got him at 57, you put him 10 spots up, that's 40. You're talking about the 4th round, end of the 4th round when you're drafting a quarterback. I think that's too early to draft Patrick Mahomes right now in the back end of the 4th, based on, again, our consensus rankings. Now, every month we all resubmit. I mean, I submit my rankings pretty much every week because as the offseason's going, there's value being pushed down.
Yep.
We're talking about these sexy names, these quarterbacks, Shadir Sanders. I mean, everyone loves shiny and new. So there's all kinds of movement going on here right now. And go figure, the Mahomes slander comes up there with a Mahomes.
Yeah, Mile High Luke is saying, watch the Mahomes slander. I would assume Mile High Luke is a Broncos guy, but apparently not. I don't know.
I'm seeing the icon. I'm seeing Mahomes there. I'm seeing Mile High, and something's not quite jiving for me. It's like it's not quite sitting right for me. But I look at this, and it's not against Mahomes as a quarterback per se, but I think he is going too high for where the production has been. And we've seen this the last couple seasons. It's not just a one-year thing for him, but now we're looking at Travis Kelce coming, his time coming up here. Maybe a year, maybe we get 2. I doubt we get 2. We got Rashee Rice looking at suspension. He's going to be missing 4 games. Pacheco didn't run the ball. He got outperformed by Kareem Hunt. Now, I know he'll come back from that leg injury, but I think the Chiefs need to run the ball. The one thing that they got they got exposed on that offensive line. They let Joe Tooney go. I mean, one of the better offensive linemen. So there's all kinds of questions about this Chiefs team that goes much deeper than Patrick Mahomes. And I think it's going to his production. He's still going to be a top 12 quarterback, but I think it's that 10, 11, 12 range where he's being drafted at 4, 3, 4, 5 at worst.
And by the way, Mile High Luke chiming in that he is from Kansas, but he moved to Denver after college 17 years ago. So there you go. He's still a Chiefs man after his own heart. But he did bring it up too. Like, and I don't know how much you want to count on Hollywood Brown this year. Certainly he could make a difference. I don't know. Maybe he puts it together this year. Rice, we already mentioned at the top of the show, Matt was on pace for a really good season. The Kelce thing, I think, is kind of moot at this point because I don't know if he gets better. I think we have seen him not going off the age cliff, but maybe the age hill, where maybe it is more of a downward slope for him because of how good he is and how elite he is. He can not just fall off all of a sudden. And maybe it's more of a slow degradation. It could be. I don't know. But there are reasons to like Mahomes. I am kind of with you. I'm leaning against him. I think this is one of those weird years where he's looking for those playmakers to carry him into the second half of his career. And whether they have all of them right now, I'm not sold on it. They might have a couple of them here. Another quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa. I've mentioned this on the show plenty of times. When he came back after that long concussion, we saw a game plan that featured Achane and Smith and did not feature Tagovailoa holding onto the ball a long time to make sure that Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle would be open downfield. Is that going to continue? And if it does continue, I think that's at it's at the detriment for Tagovailoa. Yeah, it's fine to be completing passes at a high percentage, but if they're not going for a lot of yards, and if you're relying on Achane, and if you're relying on Jalen Wright and whatever running back they get in the draft this year, I don't know how great that is for Tagovailoa. Too high, too low on Tagovailoa right now as far as the RotoBaller rankings go. How do you feel about Tagovailoa this year, Matt?
I'm low on him. I mean, your best ability is your availability. Unless we can see Tua stay healthy. I mean, I want him to stay healthy. When he's healthy, when he's cooking and doing what he's going to do, he's as good as anybody out there. And I know every quarterback, every player is one hit away from a career-ending injury. We know that. That's kind of the nature, especially of this position. But it just seems like the hit may not have to be as devastating in appearance when it comes to Tua Tagovailoa than maybe some other players out there. And at this point in his career, with the seriousness of those head injuries, I worry that we might have someone blow in his ear and he could be lost for the season. I mean, I don't know. Like, we don't know what kind of we've seen him out there. Like, there's been some serious head injuries for Tagovailoa. When he's healthy and he's ready to go, I'm starting him. I'm putting him in my lineup. I got no problem putting him in as a low-end QB1 or a QB2 in Superflex. I feel good about that when he's healthy. I just don't know if he's going to make it to week 6. I don't know if he's going to make it to week 14. I don't know if he's going to make it to 2026 at this point. So for me, it's really hard to move him up the board. And I kind of got him in that same tier of quarterbacks as a Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, good season last season, but it was kind of like a one shot left type thing. We don't know what he's going to look like next season. I mean, good season last season with Kevin O'Brien there in Minnesota. I mean, everything kind of went well. Justin Jefferson, everything went good. Now he's going over to Seattle there with Jackson Smith and Jigba. You sure you got some weapons there, but it's not quite the same. So I think we're going to see Darnold kind of trend down. I've got Tua Tagovailoa kind of in that same range as quarterbacks moving forward. So I'm low on him, but I want to be higher. I really do. I really want to be higher on him, but I look at everything going here and I just can't trust it. I can't trust it. If you can't trust your feeling, you got to go with your gut. And I can't go with it.
You are down on Mahomes. You are down on the aforementioned Tua Tagovailoa. Let's talk about a quarterback you're probably up on rather than consensus. Drake May in the RotoBaller rankings at rotoballer.com was 84. He has fallen to 91. For you, this is kind of a mistake. You're seeing some upside here with Drake May. Why are you bullish on May right now in your dynasty rankings?
I love May. I really do. And I think if the New England Patriots do right by him and give him some weapons, like last season, we saw what he could do, throwing to absolutely nobody. Hunter Henry was their number one option. Jalen Polk was a complete miss. Again, okay, guess who would have been a better pick for them? Jalen McMillan.
Yes. McMillan. You are right, my friend.
Both out of Washington. But hey, I digress there. But Drake May now has Stephon Diggs coming. I know Stephon Diggs isn't what he once was. I know he's coming off an ACL injury, but he's still going to get 150 targets next year, whether he likes it or not, because he's the only option there. So that's one more option in the passing game than they had last season. And Drake May is not only is he a good thrower of the ball, but he offers upside that nobody talks about when it comes to his mobility. He can run the ball as well. He did that at North Carolina. He proved that he could be just as mobile as some of these other quarterbacks that we're talking about. So when I take a look at him, I've got him much higher than the consensus does. I've got him above guys like Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I really do believe in what Drake May has to offer because he gives you that rushing ability. And they're starting to put some weapons in place. If New England goes out there and adds another wide receiver in this draft, a guy to complement maybe Stephon Diggs a little bit, maybe a guy who could stretch the field a little bit, open things up underneath. I'm going to be all in on Drake May. I'll tell you that right now.
So in regards to May, he was picked 7 picks ahead of JJ McCarthy in the 2024 draft last year. McCarthy ended up going to Minnesota, missed the whole season because of a knee injury. Darnold was this standout quarterback for Minnesota last year, but he's now moved on to the Pacific Northwest, climbing trees like Newman from Seinfeld. What we have to talk about McCarthy here, because not only does he get a chance to throw to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, he gets Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason in his backfield. The Vikings went out and signed Ryan Kelly, the longtime Pro Bowl center for the Indianapolis Colts. They also get Will Freeze to play guard in the interior line as well. Everything is pointing upwards. Everything's coming up McCarthy right now in Minnesota. The Vikings still want to sign a veteran quarterback to compete with McCarthy, as long as it's not Aaron Rodgers. Anybody else, Ryan Tannehill, whatever. That's all fair game. If we look at the RotoBaller Dynasty rankings, McCarthy was at 152. He's moved up to 141. Is that warranted in your opinion?
As soon as I remember to unhit the mute button, absolutely it's warranted. I mean, you mentioned those pieces on the offense. First off, Sam Darnold, who was trash until last season, who was just kind of thrown out there. No one expected Darnold to do what he's going to do. JJ McCarthy is just as good as Darnold, if not better. And he didn't even play a snap last season, right? Mm-hmm. So we saw what he did. He flashed during the preseason before he got hurt. I mean, I remember watching that preseason game against the Raiders and McCarthy. He looked pretty damn good. And let's not just talk about the things that the Vikings did on the offensive side of the ball. They also made improvements to the defensive side of the ball. Byron Murphy got signed. Jonathan Allen got signed. What's this got to do with J.J. McCarthy? Hey, if you're playing stout defense and getting the ball back to your quarterback, he is going to produce even more fantasy points, given more opportunities. The quicker your defense gets off the field, the quicker your offense can get on, the more plays your offense can get going. So I really like J.J. McCarthy. I'm excited to see. I'm cautiously optimistic because we haven't really seen him in game action, but Brett Whitfield there a couple of years ago there with Fantasy Points, he was talking about J.J. McCarthy as the top quarterback in that draft class. And the tools are all there. Everything we saw was there. We saw him. Michigan just didn't ask him to do what other quarterbacks were doing. He was able to do everything you asked for him. He just did it on a much smaller scale, which didn't quite get him the acclamation that he deserved. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Jordan Addison. I mean, you mentioned these names. Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones is back there. They could add another running back even this year, maybe a more dynamic running back to kind of replace Aaron Jones moving forward. So, and the best part is he's still on that rookie contract, which means the Vikings can still build around him on that rookie deal, saving a little bit of money, deferring it, and all this kind of stuff. So I really do like what I see with J.J. McCarthy. The pieces are in place. TJ Hawkinson. I mean, what more could you ask for a young quarterback stepping into a situation right now?
He hasn't played yet, and I think that we have to keep that in mind. But by and large, when I look at all the pieces around him, and I see how the Vikings have tried to assemble the offense that will be playing on the same field with him, and how they treated Sam Darnold in free agency, I lean towards McCarthy being a buy right now in Dynasty. I lean towards him being a win in your early best ball leagues as well. Now, we have not talked about a whole lot of rookies tonight. We will in the final segment. But before we get to that final segment, let's talk about one Shedeur Sanders. What I think is fascinating about him, and in reading this article for RotoBaller that you wrote, Matt, I think you and I are on the same wavelength here. This is the time. This is what do they call it? April is the season of liars in the NFL, right? Where you're lying about a guy to try and get him to fall to you, or you're lying about a guy so that you drive his price up and somebody else that you actually want falls to you. Shedeur Sanders is a perfect example of the type of player that you can really sell to the media, sell to your contacts as this guy is brash, he's arrogant, there's no work ethic. He's a guy that's going to be the last one in, the first one out. This is like the perfect example of a guy who can do this to. And I think some teams are doing it right now because they actually want him on their team. He was ranked 164th overall in the Dynasty rankings from RotoBaller. He has fallen to 186. Is this fall warranted? I am of the opinion that this guy does not slip to the second round. He is still a first-round pick. And as far as Dynasty Superflex goes, you still want to have this guy on your team. It's not like I'm selling the farm for Sanders, but I am definitely pro Shedeur Sanders at this point. How do you feel about the rookie from Colorado?
You know what? I'm not big on this rookie class as far as the quarterbacks are concerned. There's not that guy that just blows me away. Like, this is the guy. You have to have this guy. But I also am not dumb in thinking that we got a quarterback that had an on-throw percentage of over 70% in college. Like, this guy is an accurate passer. He's got the best mechanics out there. He might not be as mobile as Jackson Dart. He might not be as mobile as a Cam Ward, but he's pretty steady across the board. He's going to sell jerseys for your franchise. You put the name Sanders on there, you're going to get prime time coming there from time to time. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. When I look at my rankings, I got him about 132 overall, which is higher than what you're going to see him compared to the consensus. Again, when we do our consensus rankings, this is one quarterback. That's why you see the quarterbacks kind of pushed down a little bit. It's all based on one quarterback, half PPR scoring formats there. But I've got him right there. Right with Michael Penix Jr., who we saw come out last season. So we have a good idea what he could potentially be. I mean, again, small sample size for Michael Penix Jr., but he's right there in the conversation with, again, Trevor Lawrence, Dak Prescott, Baker Mayfield. I think when we're talking about Dynasty, that's kind of that tier of quarterbacks you can slide Shedeur Sanders in with right now. As far as my rankings are concerned, that's kind of what I've got. I'm higher on him, obviously, than what the rest of the RotoBaller guys are, but I see the appeal to him. You put him with Jerry Jeudy maybe with the Cleveland Browns. You put him with a Malik Neighbors with the New York Giants, and I think you've got something to go with because he's a guy who's going to make those players better than they already are. And, hey, we saw what Malik Neighbors was able to do as a rookie. We saw what Jerry Jeudy was able to do with Jameis Winston. And I definitely believe that Shedeur Sanders is better of a quarterback right now than Jameis Winston is right now. So as far as accuracy is concerned, I mean, Winston YOLO, we don't care about this or that. He's going to chuck it down there a million times. Sanders is going to be a little bit more accurate. He's going to take a more little dink and dunk, but that's going to work for him. And you put him in that offense that's about rhythm and about timing and where he can get that ball out there quickly. He's going to be fine. He's got the best mechanics inside the pocket of any quarterback in this draft, maybe out there. So, hey, I like Sanders. I think he's a viable option there. And I think when you're looking at Dynasty, you're talking about a guy who's going to be a back end QB1, a front end QB2 currently right now as he enters the league.
Yeah, I'm with you on the whole Sanders Winston comparison because these guys both throw the ball down the field quite a bit, but Sanders is a little bit more measured in his decision making than Winston is. So I'm with you. I think Sanders is the better quarterback at this point. I want to move on. Let's stay in the backfield. I want to talk about Isaiah Pacheco here briefly. He was ranked 68th. He's fallen to 80th. Probably some of that has to do with Elijah Mitchell. But maybe the other thing we're forgetting here, and myself included here, Matt, is what if Kansas City goes out and drafts a running back in round 2 or round 3? And then all of a sudden it's like Elijah Mitchell, it's a rookie, and Pacheco's kind of the aftermath. I am totally on board with selling Isaiah Pacheco for 65, 70 cents on the dollar right now. I think that's a win.
Yeah, I got him, I think, about 74 on my ranking. So kind of, I'm not too far off that. I'm not sweet on him. I mean, I think we've got the best out of him. I think the injury that he suffered last year going into the playoffs, I think the numbers were kind of, I don't think we saw a healthy Pacheco once he came back. I mean, he was outplayed by Kareem Hunt in every way, shape, and form. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I think it comes down to what you hope to get and what your expectations are and what you do with, if you get some draft capital, what you do with that draft capital. If you have Pacheco as an RB3, I'm okay getting 70 cents on a dollar. If I got him as my RB2, I'm probably holding on to him and seeing what, if he can recover some value here moving forward, because I do think if he can get himself healthy and if this Chiefs offense can get itself right here, regardless of how you want to look at it, the run, like I said, the offensive line, it didn't do Mahomes any favors, and it certainly didn't do Kareem Hunt or Pacheco any favors either. But Kareem Hunt, I think, re-signed there. You mentioned some other backs that are the Chiefs took a shot on this offseason. So Elijah Mitchell, I'm not too worried about those guys really doing a lot to Pacheco, but we saw what Pacheco did a couple seasons ago. And I have to hold out hope at least for one more season that we can see that again here in 2025. And the second I start to see that, I'm moving. Yeah. Because we know the life cycle of an NFL running back. Not everyone can be a Derrick Henry. Not everybody can be a Joe Mixon, where we're still getting value at 28, 29, 30 years of age when it comes to fantasy production. I don't think the way that Pacheco runs the ball that he's going to be able to produce like those other outliers down the road. So, I mean, if you get yourself 4 good seasons out of running back, I think it's time to move on.
I would totally agree with that. As painful as it is in Dynasty and in real life, I think that is the smart move. That is the cold, hard, calculating move that you have to make in order to win fantasy and NFL championships. Let's shift over to wide receiver. Brandon Ayuk was ranked 51st. He's fallen to 56th. This might be just like, hey, we don't know what's going on with this guy much, more so than anything else. I don't think he's going to be traded at this point now that the unofficial deadline passed for trading Ayuk. So he comes back to a team in San Francisco at some point this year. We probably think in October, featuring Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, George Kittle in no particular order. I'm fine with moving on from him if you want. In fact, I have him on a dynasty team right now. I should probably be shopping him around because if he is not back until mid-October and Pearsall is catching 5-6 balls a game, Juwan Jennings is right up there with 4 or 5 balls a game, Kittle is continuing what he did last year with Brock Purdy. Ayuk comes back. It's like, where's the thunder here? How is this guy helping me win games? There's a very real possibility that his value maybe has already peaked. Matt, how do you feel about Ayuk in San Francisco right now?
I would agree with a lot of things you said there. I mean, I'm still higher on him than the consensus is. I've got him in that Terry McLaurin, Devonta Smith, DK Metcalf range, that wide receiver too. I think he can get back to there. But you mentioned, here's the key. Like, we're talking October. If he's not back for the start of the season, if he's not back by week number 1, we saw what Ricky Pearsall did at the end of the season. We saw what Juwan Jennings was able to do when Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk missed time. I mean, Juwan Jennings is on a rocket ship right now. I mean, Deebo Samuel shot Juwan Jennings way up the dynasty ranking, especially for me, because we know that Brock Purdy loves himself some Juwan Jennings. Then you throw in George. I mean, there's one less mouth to feed there, but we got to remember, we weren't feeding Ricky Pearsall last season. So when we take a look, Deebo Samuel, sure, yeah, he's gone. But Brandon Ayuk, if he's back week 1, I feel okay about him at 45. I feel good about his dynasty still. I still feel good if he's there for week number 1. If he doesn't come back till week 3, week 4, I think we're having a very different conversation. But at the same time, if he's back week 3 or 4, we're not getting the value that I think he offers. If he gets traded, if he's somewhere else next season, I think he's a guy that can easily still recover some of his value. So I know the skill set of Brandon Ayuk. We've seen it on display the last 2 seasons prior to last season's injury season. So that's why he still remains up higher, because I still think we can get back to where he was. But I mean, if he's not there, hey, he could get himself, Wally pipped? I mean, that's a very real possibility there in San Francisco. We've seen some players get Wally pipped in the past, like Wally Pipp.
Yes, exactly. Speaking of Wally Pipp, well, this is not a Wally Pipp situation at all, but I don't often plant flags ever, because I have seen stuff. I've seen my opinion change. I've seen player values change way too much. I don't like planting flags because I feel like you're just asking yourself to be fantasy reseated, as it were, on X. Matthew Golden is a player I am willing to let everyone take in my dynasty rookie drafts. I don't care how high he goes. There are, I can't remember, it might have been Brett Whitefield from Fantasy Points. And apologies to Brett if I'm misquoting him here, but maybe it was Scott Barrett. I don't know. But there was a lot of red flags about this guy, and they're being polished with this incredible 40 time that he had at the NFL Combine. You look at the RotoBaller dynasty ranks. This guy went from 132 all the way up to 74, Matt. And I think a lot of that has to do with that 4.29 he ran in Indianapolis. I have serious misgivings on whether this guy is going to be a de facto number 1 by the team that drafts him. I think that he could be a role player. That's where he maxes out as in the NFL. I'm definitely down on Golden this year. And maybe it's because of how much I have to invest now into him than I did prior to this 40. But I look at Golden and it's like, I think I'm willing to let somebody else take him, and I'll pay the lower price for maybe Tet McMillan, Emeka Egbuka, Luther Burden, these types of players. I'm kind of down on Golden right now. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I think it comes down to what you're willing to pay. And I think as part of our rankings there, while we see that a little bit of a boost up, is you're seeing that in mainstream media as well. Daniel Jeremiah talking him up there. Number 2, I think, wide receiver in his board. Bucky Brooks. I mean, Todd McShay. I mean, you're talking about these guys that are everywhere on national television. Matt Miller talking about golden this, golden that. But I did find it interesting that when Isaiah Bond, and I know he's kind of on the show sheet too, because I just peeked at it for the first time. I know we're like an hour and a half into the show, and it's the first time I've actually looked at the show sheet. But I mean, when Isaiah Bond was there, Matthew Golden kind of played that second fiddle to Isaiah Bond. Now, credit Matthew Golden here. When Bond was out, Golden looked like a true number 1 wide receiver. The numbers didn't really change a whole lot from being number 2 to being number 1. He took over that role. But when Bond was there, and I think this is what you're talking about, I think it was Scott Barrett that actually put this quote out there talking about Bond with Matthew Golden. And that I get it. We're talking about a guy 5'11", 191, slot wide receiver, but he does play much bigger than he gets credit for. He's tough. He goes in those traffic areas. He high points the ball. He goes after those contested catches. There's a lot to like. He's basically like I'll call it like it was. He's the NFL's version of the torpedo bat right now. So maybe a little bit thicker in the middle than he is up top. But hey, that's how most of us are right now anyway. But I do like Matthew Golden, but I got no problem letting other people take him. I got no problem passing him up. There's guys I like my fellow Medicine Hatter, baby. Hey, we got some Medicine Hat love in the draft of the Stanford product. So I do love myself some Yamanor there. I love him and everything. When he brings big bully type wide receiver right here down the street from where I'm at. I love him. Jalen Noel, another guy that I absolutely have a man crush over. So there's other wide receivers. And remember, this isn't a great wide receiver class. It's a good wide receiver class. There's some good pieces out there. So when we talk about value at the position, there's a bunch of running backs. If I'm talking my first round, there's some running backs I'm taking much earlier than a Matthew Golden here per se. So he does make my top 50 big board. I do think there's some good traits there with Matthew Golden. But if we're talking about where he's being selected and where I have him ranked, I'm with you. I'll fade it a little bit because there's some other wide receivers that I think offer me the same value a little bit later.
Colin Hoffman chiming in on YouTube right now. Balky, I couldn't disagree more. Love Matthew Golden. NFL seems to like him more than Ted McMillan, and that could be the case. And I responded too. I'm like, look, when draft capital comes into this, and if somebody takes him in the mid-first round, I have to reevaluate how I feel about this guy.
And I think he will. I think teams like Dallas are going to be interested in what he can bring.
At 12, yeah. At 12.
Yep.
I mean, and to think what he could do with Lamb on that offense. Could he be a perennial, 8 touchdown guy? And if that's the case, then I got to reevaluate. He
reminds me of, say, Devonta Smith. I don't think Devonta Smith could be a true number 1 wide receiver as the 1,000-yard receiver and be the number 1 guy. But I think he can be a 1,000-yard receiver and be the wide receiver too for a team. I think Matthew Golden's the same thing. I think you can see a 1,000-yard season from Matthew Golden, but he needs that Batman to his skinny Robin or whatever you want to call it there. So I think that Matthew Golden can be a very good wide receiver, but I think he's better suited as the number 2 to maybe an alpha, bigger, a bully type wide receiver. Maybe Pittsburgh makes a lot of sense that you put him with DK Metcalf and you move George Pickens out of there. I don't know. But you get a guy like that, another guy that can kind of work with him. He's a slot wide receiver. So I do like the matchups that he can create there.
That's the skinny Batman reference from your Fantasy Points colleague, John Hansen, coming aboard on the show tonight. In regards to, and this is the final thing I'll say about Golden. Listen, he could be very good in the NFL. I'm not saying it's just, I have a feeling the stuff I've seen from his production in college, and I think this is the biggest thing. And Matt, you alluded to this as well. The biggest thing that has me down on Golden right now is how many people are high on it. And if I got to fight through all these Matthew Golden truthers to get him on my dynasty teams, to have a decent amount of shares of him, that's not a battle I'm willing to fight, right? I feel like I'm Jon Snow, right? At the Battle of the Bastards, where all these guys are coming at me for Matthew Golden. I'm laying down my sword. You can have Golden at that point. Now, what happens when the veil comes in and they annihilate all of Ramsey Bolton's troops, right? Then if Matthew Golden starts to slip to me in drafts, I'm fine with taking him. I'm fine with having a few shares. I just don't want to go all in on him. That's my thoughts on Matthew Golden.
Well,
go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
Yeah, so if you're looking at, say, you pick number 7 or 8 in your draft and Matthew Golden's there, but hey, the show sheet has Isaiah Bond right after him. If I can trade back a couple spots and pick up an additional draft pick and select Isaiah Bond and have someone else select Matthew Golden, I feel I'm getting similar value. Heck, I've seen it play out in Texas. I've seen similar production between the two when they're both on the field. And if I could pick up another 3rd round pick with it, I see your point, Eric. I know where you're going with this, and I'm not against it.
Brett Whitefield, your Fantasy Points cohort, has championed this, talking about how he is putting the tinfoil hat on in that Isaiah Bond is actually faster than Matthew Golden, and that what we were treated to on television was a manipulation of the 40 times, and that Bond is still, like, everybody views Bond as the slow guy now compared to Golden, because Golden ran the super fast 40. Not so fast, my friends, as Lee Corso would say. Check out Brett Whitefield's work at fantasypoints.com. You can get the draft guide for free right now there, by the way, too, to give his thoughts. And Brett, by the way, very often is right on stuff like this. His track record speaks for itself. Check that out at fantasypoints.com.
Especially at the wide receiver position. Yes. His hit rate is unbelievable.
I want to talk about Jalen Noel. We brought him up here, or you brought him up here briefly. This is a guy who went from 197 all the way up to 143. This is a guy that had a massive Senior Bowl in Mobile. And then at the Combine was great. 4.3940, 4.17 shuttle, 6.82 cone, and a plus 40-inch vertical leap, 11'2" on the broad jump. 9.8 on the RAS score, a Spork score of 96.1, which is phenomenal. Are you I'm not saying drinking the Jalen Noel Kool-Aid, because I feel like I am right now. So it can't be Kool-Aid. We just have to adjust. Noel is being heavily undervalued by a lot of people out there. How do you feel about it, Matt?
Oh, I'm in the corner, passed out hours ago already on the Jalen Noel Kool-Aid. I'm all in on the kid, man. I mean, I love everything that he brings to the table. I love what he has. I've got him right now. He hasn't even played a snap in the National Football League, and I've got him right next to Devontae Adams in my Dynasty rankings without even setting foot on the field. And usually with rookies, I am a little bit off on them until I see them do something, right? I mean, there's a few rookies out there that we could talk about. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. When Jamar Chase came in the league, we knew what he was going to be. When Saquon Barkley came in the league, we knew where he was going to slide in. Ashton Genty, he's already sliding into top 5 running back dynasty conversations already. Jalen Noel, I mean, compared to the rest of this group, I mean, we're talking about a guy who's averaging 3.5 yards per route run against zone coverage. His 2.6 yards per route run overall was greater than prospects like Igbuka there, Luther Burden, whose name's come up a couple times, who I guess I'm not as high on Burden as maybe some other people. Maybe this is that fantasy points bias going in. I mean, we get in the chat room, and none of us are really that high on Luther Burden. It's probably because Brett's kind of talked him down and talked us off the edge a little bit. And hey, when Brett talks, you listen when it comes to wide receivers. We're talking about a wide receiver who is a nasty punt return, kick returner as well. We're talking about a guy with 1,300 yards returning in his career. We're talking about a guy with a 56% catch rate on passes greater than 20 yards. We're talking about a kid that was the number 1 wide receiver at the Senior Bowl. Whoever you have at the Senior Bowl, Jalen Nolan was recognized as the best wide receiver amongst his peers, and he ran a 4.340. He had a 41.5-inch vertical. He had an 11'2" broad jump at the Combine. The guy is electric in every sense of the word. I'm probably too low on him. I think I've got him, I think 73, somewhere in that range overall. as far as my dynasty rankings are concerned, and I might be too low on him right now. That number might go up. Throw some draft capital at him, see where he lands. He's going to find a nice little niche there as a slot wide receiver. I can't talk more highly of Noel right now.
I can't help but think like one of the things working against Noel is his college teammate, Jaden Higgins, right? He's probably going to go ahead of him in the NFL draft, and that probably unfairly pushes Noel down. But I'm glad he is getting some pub right now. I'm glad he's moving up in the RotoBaller rankings. I want to spend the last 20 plus minutes of the show on rookies. So this is the last veteran I want to bring up. Brenton Strange, the former second-round pick from Penn State to the Jacksonville Jaguars. He has gone in the RotoBaller Dynasty rankings from 265 all the way up to 207. Evan Engram has moved on. He is now Sean Payton's new joker in Denver. Jaguars last year had some pretty good weeks with Brenton Strange when Evan Engram was out. 411 receiving yards, 40 catches. Evan Engram, 47 catches. For 365 yards. This could be a huge year from Brenton Strange. The problem, and I wouldn't say this is a big problem, but we have to sweat out draft weekend, right? If Jacksonville invests day one or even day two, I think Brett Whitefield even said in the daily podcast that Fantasy Points is putting out, like a hot take would be the Jags taking Tyler Warren, not TJ Warren. Tyler Warren at 5, and then that would just kill Brenton Strange. But what if they don't do that? What if they take Loveland or Harold Fannin or Mason Taylor or Elijah Royal on day 2? Like that would also hurt Brenton Strange as well. So when we look at Brenton Strange dynasty ranking right now, this is a little tough. Yeah, he's shot up since Evan Engram got released, but we can't overinvest in him right now. Or can we, Matt Donnelly?
Well, when you're sitting rock bottom, you can only look up. And Strange was way at the bottom of these rankings a couple months ago. I mean, until Evan Engram basically was released, Brenton Strange was just kind of an afterthought. Yeah, we had some good games. We saw that, you know what? Evan Engram, 10th amongst tight ends when it came to average separation score. That's fantastic. But guess who was number 7? Brenton Strange. So he actually had a better separation score than we saw from Evan Engram. He became the 3rd Jags tight end in history to have more than 400 yards receiving at the age of 24 or younger. So we know we got a young tight end who's had production, but he has to avoid the draft landmines here at the end of the month. They're in Green Bay, Wisconsin there, because if they do take a tight end, it is going to crush Brenton Strange. I do believe that the Jaguars have enough needs elsewhere on their roster where they can basically go, you know what, Brenton Strange, we know this is a good tight end draft class. We feel that you would be one of the better tight ends here. You know, maybe you're not Tyler Warren. Maybe you're not Loveland. Maybe you're not even a Rojo or however you want to.
Arroyo. Yeah.
Arroyo. Yeah. You know what? I get paid for my writing, not my talking more often than not. I say so many names. I can't even get my kids' names right half the time, let alone. There's certain players I refuse to rank higher because I don't want to pronounce their name on YouTube when I do my shows, right? I mean, they're all around there, so I got no shame. I got no shame in saying that. It took me about 3 seasons to get Chigakonkwo right. So,
I still haven't gotten it right. You say it right now, it comes off like a haiku. I can't say it right. Keep going.
Yeah, no, there's certain names can't do it. I just can't do it. But I look at Strange, and yeah, he's still quite a bit down there on the rankings. Like I got him at that 245, 246 kind of spot there. But that's right in that same range as Chigakonkwo as far as tiering is concerned for the tight end position. So yes, he's moving up, but nothing is guaranteed for him yet. Now, Again, if he avoids being replaced here at the draft, I think we could see him kind of continue to crawl up those draft boards, get himself in the same kind of conversation as maybe a Jatavian Sanders, or, I mean, some of these other tight ends that we're talking about, Tucker Kraft maybe in that tier of wide tight ends. So, I mean, he's got a little ways to go. He's got to avoid some things here right now. He's in a good spot in Jacksonville where I don't think they would add anyone, but I'm not into player personnel because I do believe they have some other holes they need to address. They let some other players go that they probably should have hung on to. So we'll see how the next couple weeks play out for the Jaguars. But right now, Strange is in a good spot.
Strange is in a good spot, and so are we, for discussing rookies in the NFL draft, which will start happening 3 weeks from today. He is Matt Donnelly from Fantasy Points and RotoBaller. I'm Eric Balkman from the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour and the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. When we come back, let's talk about some of these rookies. Let's talk about Travis Hunter. Let's talk about Amari and Hampton. Let's talk about Colson Loveland, Emeka Egbuka, and more. You are watching the Better Sports Network High Stakes Fantasy Football Show presented by the Fantasy Football Players Championship. Don't go anywhere. We roll on right after this.
Andrew Cooper here of Fantasy Alarm. And if you're anything like me, football season never ends. Super Bowl's over. Who cares? We got a lot of speculation to do. And the best way to take advantage of that is at myffpc.com. Mock drafts are fun. They're fine. But if you really want to get leverage, get in one of their never too early best ball drafts or never too early super flex drafts now, where you can take advantage of all your takes. I'm in there now because I got hunches, right? I got ideas for free agency. I got ideas for the drafts. I got ideas for the 2025 NFL season, and I want to get them on paper now. And I want to do so before the NFL draft, right? Before the cat's out of the bag. That's the beauty of these contests, right? You go in and you get set up, and the drafts are already going, and they end on April 24th, right when the NFL draft starts. So you can get in there, get all your takes in, take advantage of everything before everybody finds out what happens. Use promo code ALARM at myffpc.com when you get set up. They'll give you $25 when you deposit $35 or more, and you can get in these tournaments, the never too early best ball and the never too early super flex contest, to get your shot at $10,000 or $40,000 grand prizes.
Talking with Matt Donnelly from Fantasy Points and RotoBaller here on the FFPC High Stakes Fantasy Football Show on the Better Sports Network. Check out the Never Too Early Best Ball tournaments exclusively on the myffpc.com website. A $40,000 and $10,000 grand prize tournaments going all the way up until April 24th, which is 3 weeks from today. 30-second, 60-second, 2-hour, and 6-hour clocks available at myffpc.com. We're talking rookies tonight, and veterans too, but a lot of rookie talk in the second half of the show, and I want to focus our efforts on that here, Matt, as we go forward. The top three quarterbacks in this draft are, kind of almost, automatically right now: Ward, Sanders, Dart. In your opinion, for Dynasty Superflex drafts in the FFPC, if these guys were to have their highest value possible, what are the best landing spots for Ward, Sanders, and Dart?
I think for Ward, it's first overall the Tennessee Titans there. I think that's kind of where they go. They built that offensive line. They made some moves here in this offseason. They've got Calvin Ridley there. They got Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears. I mean, they've got some weapons for him to kind of work with a little bit. So I think that's a good spot for him there. As far as Shadir Sanders is concerned, I think the New York Giants make a lot of sense. I mean, hey, primetime, Big Apple. I mean, you can sell a lot with this whole setup here going on there. You know what? Sanders, it's not too big for him, right? He's been in the eye of the storm his entire career, from Jackson State to Colorado. He's been with primetime as he's never not been in the spotlight. Like he's always
primetime junior. Primetime junior is not going to be phased by the biggest lights or the brightest lights anywhere.
No, absolutely not. So I think New York makes a lot of sense. You know what? New York's got some pieces there. I mean, they've got some work to do, but you got Tyrone Tracy Jr., you've got Malik Neighbors. I mean, you got Darius Slayton. Hey, I know a lot of people don't talk about Darius Slayton, but he's a damn good wide receiver too. So you've got some options there for him as well. He's got his Travis Hunter there and Malik Neighbors. So I think it makes a lot of sense there. And then it gets interesting because there's not a lot of other teams that really scream out, we need a quarterback. There's two teams that come to mind. One happens to be the Cleveland Browns, which I don't think take a quarterback at number 3. I think they could trade back in. I think that makes a lot of sense for a guy like Jackson Dart, even or Sanders that kind of drops. And we talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers being that other team that has a quarterback need that could possibly make a move in the first round for a guy like Jackson Dart. I think that'd be a good fit. I think Dart is That guy that basically the Pittsburgh Steelers need. He's a good mobile quarterback. He's basically a blend of Sanders and Cam Ward, right? He's got enough athleticism. He's not quite Cam Ward when it comes to his athleticism, but he's got a good, accurate arm that's comparable to Shadir Sanders. So he's kind of that in-between kind of guy. He's tough. We've watched him take some nasty hits in the pocket. He's SEC tested. I'll say it from like down here when I talk about it. But those are the teams that are really needy on the quarterback. Seattle could get in the quarterback market, but not probably until the second, third, fourth round. I mean, I think they gave Sam Darnold money for a reason. I think they're going to kind of push chips in with him, but there's not a lot of teams that have a need right now at the quarterback position. I mean, the Raiders were right there until they made the move for Geno Smith. So that kind of took them out of the contention.
Right.
The Jets were right there, but they got Justin Fields. So that took them out of contention. There was a lot more teams needing a quarterback 3 weeks ago than there is right now.
I almost wonder if the way quarterbacks get pushed up late in the cycle, Matt, would cause somebody, the fear of that would cause somebody to trade up into the mid or maybe the late first round, and maybe higher than the late first round, to jump over a team like Seattle, to jump over a team that would be able to secure the services of Jackson Dart. Pittsburgh, I can't remember who was just talking about this the other day. But somebody like the Steelers making sure that they're drafting ahead of the Seahawks in the first round.
I think it comes down to what the Browns and the Giants do with their first two picks. I think the Titans are going to go quarterback number one. I think the tea leaves are all suggesting that. But you're talking about Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, who are blue chip prospects who can change the fortunes of a franchise right now. Can the Browns or the Giants afford to pass up either one of those? So if they go that route, those are the teams that could trade back in. And you know what? It's going to cost them a lot less to trade back into the back end of the first round, because there's only so many teams that need a quarterback right now, right? They're basically playing with house money. They're the two teams that need quarterbacks in a bad way. Pittsburgh, they could use a quarterback too. So it's going to be interesting to see how, if both those teams choose not to select a quarterback and go with the best players in the draft, because Abdul Carter is my number one guy on my big board. Travis Hunter is my number two guy on my big board. Sanders and even Cam Ward, they don't come in until I think 20, 23, something like that on my big board. I got them a lot lower, and I'm pushing them up as well because of the need for the position. But I don't see them being generational the way I look at Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. I mean, Travis Hunter is literally not only the wide receiver one in this draft, but the cornerback one in this draft. Abdul Carter was an absolute menace playing with one arm. He's like the Black Knight in Monty Python skit. It is but a foot. He was still sacking dudes with one arm tied behind his back. That's how good Abdul Carter is. So it's going to be fun watching this draft. If either of those teams pass, you could bet they're going to try and work the way back in the first round, and it's probably going to cost them maybe a future first-round draft pick, maybe they're second plus something else. Like, I mean, it's not going to be that much, because you look at these other teams, and really only the Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe Seattle would really consider using a first-round pick on a quarterback. I don't see any other team that would consider it.
Hour and 47 minutes into the show tonight, and we got our first Monty Python and the Holy Grail reference, which I love. Should have been earlier, but it happens. Chiming in on YouTube right now, Mile High Luke, what are our thoughts on Savion Williams? Now, Savion Williams is a player that is, quite frankly, right now, mocked all over the place. You can find him in the first round. You can find him in the second round. You can find him in the third round. This is a big, beefy wideout from TCU, 6'4", 225, depending upon where you're looking at. This is a guy who had 573 yards, 41 catches, and 4 touchdowns in 2023 as a senior. I have to look up his 2024 stats, which I think were a little bit better. But my cohort, my local radio station here in Northeast Wisconsin, who is a big draftnik, has been chiming into my ear talking about Savion Williams and how this would be a good fit for the Packers. It'd probably be a good fit for other teams as well. But as far as fantasy football goes, what do you think about Savion Williams? And quite frankly, Matt, what do you think his draft capital is going to be? Because I think that is going to shape the way we think about him come 3 weeks or maybe 3 weeks and a day after today.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at my notes here, and I'll be honest with you, Savion Williams isn't very high in my rankings. I'm not a big guy on him, but here's the thing. It doesn't take me telling you where he's going to be. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, especially when it comes to the draft. And when we look at this draft in particular, there are a plethora of smallish wide receivers. I mean, a lot of slot guys. The prototypical X that Savion Williams is, there's only a handful of guys that are maybe above him at that position. We are talking about McMillan. We talk about the Stanford product there from Medicine Hat. We're talking about Jaden Higgins. Those are kind of those X wide receivers that Williams happens to be. Everything else above Williams, we're talking about slot guys. So, I mean, I look at it and I'm looking at a guy who is probably going on late in the third round, maybe early fourth round. But it comes down to what a team sees in him. Like, if they feel that he's that guy. I mean, you look at what he does. He's got that massive frame. He's athletic. He's got a huge catch rate. The dude's like a condor out there. And you know what? For a dude that big, he's actually quite flexible. Like, I mean, I watched some of his film and my hips popped out watching. Like, I hurt. Like, I'm pretty sure I strained my groin watching him. And I mean, it was like one of those, oh, and I was like, oh, kind of moments. So, he has some things that teams are going to like, and that size is one of those things you can't replace. And we're talking about, like you said, 6'3", 222 pounds, 223 pounds, somewhere in that ballpark. There's not a lot of big guys. He runs a 4.48 40, so he's got the speed, he's got the reach. There's going to be a team that falls in love with him that could push him up the board. Like I said, got him kind of in that late third, early fourth type range with these wide receivers. And like I said, good class, which means there could be a lot of shifting based on team needs at that position.
I have to bring up Medicine Hat here. Alec Iamaner from Stanford won the John Cornish Trophy 2 years ago as the top Canadian in NCAA football. He plays at Stanford. It's the guy we've been talking about tonight. I never heard of Medicine Hat before. And I probably should have. And now that I have you on tonight, you are not far from it, or are you in Medicine Hat, Matt?
I am right here in the heartbeat of Medicine Hat. I mean, he's been to my facility to work out. He's a product of the Panthers track club. He came from Medicine Hat High School, went off to out east there to play some good old high school football because, we got good football here, but it's not quite the same as maybe New Jersey or something like that. So, I mean, great kid, well-rounded, well-spoken, but he's a damn bully on the football field. I'll tell you that right now. There's going to be some cornerbacks and some DBs that make some business decisions. I mean, we're talking about a wide receiver that done Travis Hunter dirty, right? We've seen the film. We watched that Colorado Stanford game. There's very few wide receivers that made Travis Hunter look silly. When he ran Michael Thomas might be the slant boy that we're all talking about, but Alec, he can run the slant. You can't get around him. He's a big, broad, wide receiver that can absolutely move. 294 yards, 3 touchdowns against Colorado back in 2023. Yeah, that's putting some work in, people. That is putting some work in. And I'm all in on him. I mean, I think I got him as my wide receiver 4, my wide receiver 5 as far as his class is concerned. Brett Whitfield, number 2 is where they got my boy. So, hey, I thought I was high. No. Brett's got him. We talk about what Brett's talking about. We're talking about a guy who's jacked up. He's a press beater. The guy is a refined technician when it comes to his route running, body control, good coachable kid. He checks every box you could check. He checks. Now, he did have some drops last year that kind of maybe aren't the greatest thing to kind of go. I mean, his road tree is somewhat limited because he's still pretty – I mean, he's coming from Canada, man. We play a different game. We only got 3 downs up here. The game is different. So he's going to take a little bit of time to kind of mold into what you want. But, hey, the traits are absolutely there. I think Brett kind of used Puka Nakua's name and kind of put that out there when talking about Alex. So, hey, who might argue with Brett, right?
Medicine Hat, Canada, known as the sunniest city in Canada, which is getting 2,500 plus hours of sunshine a year. It is the 8th largest city in Alberta. And by the way, slightly smaller than my hometown, where I'm broadcasting from tonight, of Appleton, Wisconsin. A Jordan Love Hail Mary throw southwest of Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's not often that I get a guy on tonight that is coming from a smaller city than I am, but tonight we are making small cities happen, Matt, which I love.
Eric, man, Cincinnati is the big city to me.
Appleton's a big city to me. This is the thing. Yeah.
This is about 64,000 people in this town. Yeah. I come from a town of 250. I don't even have a stoplight in my hometown. We've got one stop sign and a yield sign. That is it. That is what we got. That is where I'm coming from. We don't even have a gas station where it's a bar and it's a sausage shop. That is it. Sausage and beer. That's all you can get back in 7 persons, Alberta.
So Appleton is slightly bigger, but not much, about 8,000 more than Medicine Hat. I dated in my before I was married, I dated a lot of girls from small towns like you're talking about, but I never lived there. But I know the feeling of rolling in and you have the one intersection with a stoplight, right? You have the one intersection with the 4-way stop sign. I get it. I totally get it. Let me fly through these last few things here. We'll go rapid fire on this. If Travis Hunter,
me and rapid fire.
I know it's not great. I know it, and me too. Travis Hunter, if he goes top 4, if he goes top 3, do we need to bump him up in our ranks based on how we think his team is going to use him offensively?
I mean, I've got him right now at my number 4 player on my draft board. It's Genty, McMillan, Hampton, Hunter. That's how I've got the guys ranked right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, he probably gassed out a little bit last year, but he was going both ways, playing like every snap of every game. So I can see why he kind of gassed out a little bit. But again, he is my wide receiver 1, even ahead of McMillan, if he was to focus just on wide receiver, right? He's the cornerback 1 if he was just going to be a cornerback. So, I mean, put him in New England, and let's have some fun with that.
Hold on. Tyler Warren, if we are going to be drafting him at his ceiling, if he is going to land in the absolute best spot, is it Indianapolis?
I think Indianapolis, and I think Cincinnati make a lot of sense for him, for places that could boost his value up there. I mean, Mike Gesicki, he's still there in Cincinnati, but Tyler Warren is different. I mean, But you know what? I'm not sold. Like, if the Jacksonville Jaguars go out and get Tyler Warren, I like that fit. But I like Colston Loveland going to the Indianapolis Colts too. I don't think there's that much difference between the two of them. If someone goes out and reaches for Tyler Warren, good on them. I'll go get myself Loveland, who I think is going to be just as productive a player moving forward.
I want to ask you about Colston Loveland here. I have been on him, and I think he is going to be a really good NFL tight end. But Matt, your thoughts on how good of a fantasy tight end he is going to be, because that is different than being an every down essential tight end to his NFL team. How good of a fantasy tight end is he going to be at the next level?
I think he's going to be a fantastic tight end. I think, like I said, I think he offers you very similar production of what we're going to see with Tyler Warren. Now, Penn State asked Tyler Warren to do it. Michigan didn't ask Loveland to do it. But if you look at college, Loveland's 34.7% receiving market share. That was the most amongst the power conference tight ends in the last 15 years. Check. Furthermore, 2.25 yards per route run. That puts him right up there with the likes of Brock Bowers, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts from a college standpoint. So even though the numbers didn't necessarily pop off like what we saw with Tyler Warren, we're talking about a guy, 101 receptions, 1,200 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns. You don't ignore that. That's good quality production, except Warren was like a top 7 wide receiver in college last season. So, I mean,
I thought I saw a stat yesterday that he rushed for more yards at Penn State than all Colts tight ends received for in 2024.
That's a very strong. I would not doubt that. What we have. Yeah, we got Grant's in there. We had Mo Ellie. I don't even know who the tight ends in Indianapolis are anymore. I mean, they haven't had a tight end.
John Mackey, Dallas Clark. Those are the last ones I remember. All right. Trey Harris, Emeka Egbuka. Who do you like in a vacuum?
In a vacuum, I'm going to go with Egbuka there. We're talking about the guy who's the number 1 all-time leading wide receiver at the University of Ohio State. We're talking about a team that's kind of produced, I don't know, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Chris Carter. I mean, it's not like these are nobodies. David Boston. I mean, I can go on and on about the wide receivers. And then we're comparing Trey Harris to Laquan Treadwell. I mean, hey, I love Trey Harris. I think he's going to be a fantastic pro, but Ibuka, he does everything you could possibly want. Now, he's a big slot wide receiver is basically what he's going to be. He's good on the verticals. I mean, anything you could want him to possibly do, he's going to be able to do it. But he's going to do it from the slot. He's going to be mismatched when he come down into the red zone there, taking those end zone shots. He tracks the ball as well as anybody there. So, I mean, I can't say anything negative about Ibuka there. I mean, 54.3% contested catch success rate in college. I mean, you want that on your team.
Yeah. Final question I have for you tonight, Matt. If I set the over-under on running backs being drafted in the first round in Green Bay, Wisconsin, 3 weeks from today at 2.5, are you taking the over or are you taking the under?
That is a very good. That's going to be a very good line. I think we could put Genty on there. I think we could put Hampton on there. But then, do we see Henderson? Do we see Judd? I don't think we do. I'm going to take the under because I think we're going to see running backs get pushed down because there's so many talented ones. Why would I jump up and a team has to fall in love with this running back late in the draft? Like, I mean, I think we're going to see Hampton go somewhere in the late teens. So now we're looking at 20 to 32. Is a team willing to grab a running back there when you can grab maybe a Caleb Johnson at the back end of the second round, or like we said, Martinez? I mean, there's so many talented running backs available. I think it's going to push that third running back into the second round.
I am 100% with you. We very rarely see teams trade up into the second round to draft a running back. It's receivers, it's tight ends, it's pass rushers, it's corners, it's linemen. Like, you don't really see somebody trading up into the run to the first round to get a running back. So I think it's Hampton, I think it's Genty, and then we wait till Friday to see the next running back taken, whether that's Johnson or Judkins or Henderson, I don't know, or RJ Harvey, who knows? We will find out 3 short weeks from today or tomorrow. Matt Donnelly, Fantasy Points RotoBaller. We talked about the piece that you have been working on every month about looking at the Dynasty rankings from RotoBaller. You have also been working on a very intensive rookie project. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so it's now with the editor's hands, which is never a good thing. Like, when you listen to me talk, that is how I write. Okay, when we talk about the Canadian American exchange rate, well, when I put stuff in and I'm editing, I'm writing Canadian here, okay? Canadian writing, we put the U's in different places. I mean, it is just a mess. So shout out to all my editors out there. I mean, Sean, Rashee, I mean, you guys, you're the true MVPs out there, because I write a 6,500 word piece right now. It's sitting in the drafts. I know at some point I need to proofread this before hitting submit, and I don't want to do it. I do not want to read my own writing at this point until it's cleaned up. So that's going to be hopefully coming out here early next week. The Dynasty Report, I'm going to get the rankings here together probably Monday. So look for that to drop probably Wednesday. And then we're talking about, I'll start diving into mock draft 4.0, a 2-round look at this year's NFL draft, how I see things play out. And then, of course, we got the post-combine draft rankings, top 10, all that fun stuff. There's a lot of content coming out on RotoBaller that I'm going to somehow be entrusted with.
To learn more, go to rotoballer.com, fantasypoints.com. Matt Donnelly, a Fantasy Sports Writers Association finalist. He writes for Fantasy Points RotoBaller. The 2021 Fantasy Pros #2 ranked accuracy. I believe that's the trophy over your right shoulder.
That is the trophy, yep.
Yeah, there you go, right there. Of course, check him out at Matt Donnelly FF on X. You never fail to disappoint. I love this show tonight. Everybody learned a lot and had some fun doing it over the course of 2 hours, Matt. Don't be a stranger. We'll talk with you again real soon, and good luck and enjoy drafting season and the 2025 NFL draft.
Appreciate the invite. We'll catch you next time there, Eric.
You got it. That is Matt Donnelly. I want to thank him and our producer, Matt Deutsch. We'll be back at 7:00 p.m. Eastern time next Thursday with Dynasty League Football's Brandon Hay. Check out the FFPC Never Too Early Best Ball and Never Too Early Superflex Best Ball tournaments at myffpc.com, along with those final Dynasty Orphans posted for 2025 as well. Remember, 1,800 plus leagues, 15 years, not a Dynasty League has ever been folded with the FFPC. Big Gorilla Tournament going on tonight and going forward. myffpc.com is where to go to win $1 million here in April. Where else can you do that? myffpc.com, myffpc.com. For Matt Donnelly and Matt Deutsch, I have been Eric Balkman. This is the FFPC High Stakes Fantasy Football Show on the Better Sports Network. Have a great weekend, everybody. Talk with you next week.